This is Finance Career Launch, the audio show. We have one goal here, to make sure you develop your full potential as a finance professional so you can contribute as much as possible to your organization and as a result, advance your career. Hello and welcome to episode 0, the inaugural episode of Finance Career Launch. Now, since this is the inaugural episode, I just want to go over a couple things about what to expect with this podcast and some other things that are going on with Finance Career Launch, the site, the community. First, I thought it would be helpful some of you may know me, you may know me, you may not, so I want to just cover a little bit about my background and tell you a little bit about myself. Not too much, but just so you understand what I've done. And then the second thing, just why I started this, why I started the podcast, Finance Career Launch, the audio show, and what it can do for you, what I intend it for, and what I hope it can do for you. And then the third thing is just what to expect from this podcast and Finance Career Launch, the community, the site. And if you haven't gone there yet, go to financecareerlaunch.com and go ahead and sign up. It's a free of charge for membership, but there's a lot of stuff kind of behind the membership there that I'll get into in a few minutes here. But first, just a little bit about me so you know who I am. I came to Cleveland from the East Coast, from New England, in 1997 and went to Case Western Reserve University. That's where I went to school. Graduated in 2000, and I kind of came with the plan of being an investor or a financial planner. I had read a couple books by Peter Lynch, One Up on Wall Street and Learn to Earn, and I loved those books and their simplicity and kind of the fundamental viewpoint that he had. And he mentioned Warren Buffett a couple times, and that was my plan. And I talked to a few people about that and the career. I got an accounting major. I have a BS in accountancy is actually the official degree. And it's funny, I talked to the advisors, and my advisor happened to be an accounting professor, and he said, "Oh, everyone wants to be a financial planner. Don't do that." So I wasn't sure what I was going to do, and I ran into a friend of mine who happened to be in my fraternity who worked at a middle market investment bank here in Cleveland. And he asked me, "Have you ever thought about investment banking?" And I honestly hadn't. I hadn't heard anything about it. I had no idea what it was. Case is not a typical feeder school for investment banks, and it's grown since then. But back then, it was not many people knew about it at all. So I learned about it. He gave me a few books to read, and it sounded fascinating to me. I was a wrestler. I always sought out challenges. And so I said, wow, this seems like a really challenging career path, so I'll go after it. And I ended up interning at a firm here in Cleveland called, at the time, McDonald & Company, McDonald Investments. Since then, it had been bought by KeyBank, and now it's kind of merged into the bank. But I had a great experience that summer, learned a ton, worked really hard, and then they offered me a full-time position, so I spent a few years there. And then the guy I worked for directly was recruited to start a new group at National City, another name that doesn't exist anymore. National City in the financial crisis was swallowed up by PNC Bank. But I was there for a few years, and then I was asked by a guy that I used to work with when I first started. He was starting with several other people, a new firm, a brand new firm, a partnership, a an independent firm, smaller, called Western Reserve Partners. And I started there in 2004, and that's where I am today. And we're a middle market investment bank, which I can get into that a little bit more in other either videos or information. But to us, middle market is roughly companies, let's say 20 million in revenue up to 500 as a round number. Everyone defines that differently, but that'll give you a feel. We're not talking about $1 billion companies for the most part, and we're not talking about a $2 million revenue business. But we represent them for M&A transactions, for capital raising, private capital raising. We don't take companies public right now. We did when I was at McDonald and had that was a full service bank. We're a boutique is what you call it. And so we have, a very defined set of services, but it's a great small team, small firm. And I've been there most of the last 10 or so years. I did take a few years to go work in industry. I worked at a company called Horsberg & Scott here in Cleveland. We manufactured large industrial gears. I mean, huge gears. Some of these things were 30 feet in diameter for steel and aluminum rolling mills, and just made huge products. I was there through the downturn in 2008 through 2011, and it was an interesting experience, to say the least. Learned a lot and worked for some really hard-charging people. We learned about how to survive in a terrible downturn. I mean, it was not a pleasant time to be there. Just you talk about cutting 30% of the workforce. After I got there in July of 2008 when it was still, things were okay before the wheels fell off, before Lehman Brothers happened and everything. But, quickly that changed, and what was a growth story changed to how do we survive? So great hard lessons learned there. And after that, I spent a couple years on my own trying to do a couple things. I started a music studio, taught some music lessons, and then did some small business coaching, leadership consulting, which I loved. But then it was my family started to expand, so it was time to go back and get a job to support us in a little bit bigger of a way. So I went back to Western Reserve, and now I run our buy-side practice. And for us, that means I lead the practice that tries to help clients make acquisitions. So we're on the buy side, and we're still an advisor. We don't buy companies ourselves. That's private equity. That's different, but that's what I do. So all the clients I work with tend to be buyers of businesses, and it's fun. We help them find, attract, and value, and negotiate, and do all sorts of neat things there. So that's enough about me. I want to talk a little bit about the genesis of Finance Career Launch and why this whole thing started. Now, I mentioned this already a little bit, but I entered the finance world like a lot of people. I was young, ambitious, ready to take on the world. I was willing to put in really long hours, and I worked a lot for the first 10 years and eager to do whatever it took to succeed. And once I secured that dream job, that investment banking job right out of school, I thought I was all set. I kind of thought it would be, all right, I got it. Now let's just go, and I'm good for the rest of my life. And I did pretty well early on. I did really well, actually. I excelled at a lot of the intro skills, the modeling and financial. My accounting degree really helped. But I began to run into some stumbling blocks around year 5. All of a sudden, I was responsible for teams of people and struggled with some of the leadership and delegation issues that come up. I had a hard time making that conversion. And it was difficult for me to pull myself away from the details. I became responsible for client interaction, project management, and was assuming more business development responsibilities and opportunities. And as I became overwhelmed, I became way less productive and couldn't quite make sense of what was going on, honestly. And for years, I was just frustrated, unhappy, and didn't really know what to do to fix it. I had become very proficient at the job, the skills, but I didn't have a clue how to turn it into a successful career, and I felt kind of lost. Now, I realize this now, but in addition to some just general lack of training and knowledge that would have been nice to have, one of my biggest problems was that I was trying to do this alone. Now, my independent nature has served me pretty well for the most part, but in hindsight, I realized I was also a bit naive. And now I know that no one, and I mean no one, succeeds without help from other people. So after several years of struggling, I began to find some mentors. And I'll just name a few here, but Michael Hyatt, I learned from him, and you can find him at michaelhyatt.com. I learned from him what it takes to be a better leader. He helped me understand what a healthy team dynamic looked like. He showed me how to be more productive and have a plan for my personal and professional life. And he also helped me just in general be a more mature business person and approach problems and conflict in a more mature way. Another example, Seth Godin, he just pushes all boundaries of what I used to think was possible. And because of him, I have the courage to stand here right now and speak to you and say, I'm an artist. I'm creating this podcast, this community. And I think you are too. I think we're all artists, and this is what I made. And I can stand here and be a little afraid. Is this going to work? Is this not? But he's given me the courage and kind of pushed my boundaries to believe that I can do more things that I could than what I believed before. And for Michael Port, I discovered a whole new philosophy about sales and marketing, one that fits me and my strengths and is consistent with my values. He's pushed me to rethink the definition of how to communicate and performance and what that means in the context of business and life. And probably most importantly, he's made me realize how to think bigger about who I am and what I offer the world. And that's his term. That's his mission in life. His business mission is to help people think that way. And he helped me do that, which was an amazing gift. And because of these three people and many others, there's just, only three I wanted to mention because I could go on and on forever. But I've grown tremendously as a professional in the past 5 years because of those three guys. And I'm happier, more fulfilled, and most importantly, in performing better than ever. And it's not because I'm working more or longer hours. In fact, I'm way more productive than I used to be. Now, as it turns out, probably not a surprise to you, I'm not alone in kind of this journey and the desire to succeed. People all over the world want to advance and be promoted and have this, there's a lot of people out there that are ambitious, and that's probably why you're listening to this. And many people understand that a mentor can help with this, mentor relationships. But honestly, it's really hard to find external mentors who get your situation, right? And when you find someone, often they're the busy ones, and they're hard to get a hold of. And I'm asked daily for advice by students, by young people, and so are many of my colleagues. And I hate having to say, I'm just too busy right now, I can't meet. I do it as much as I can, but I can't possibly fulfill all those requests. Now, in a perfect world, another logical place to go is your boss or other colleagues. And I'm sure if you look around you, there are many successful people surrounding you. But unfortunately, this is tough. It feels like a little bit of a conflict. It can feel awkward and uncomfortable to ask for career advice from those people you're trying to impress, right? I mean, go to your boss and say, I don't think I'm good at this. How do I learn this? How do I excel? And it's just an awkward conversation. Now, not all places are like this. Some places have a very open culture, but a lot of places don't. So it's tough to find. Now, there are some resources out there for certain careers in finance, for investment banking, private equity, sales and trading, kind of those careers. And they are pretty good at giving very specific training on financial modeling and technical skills. And they're also great if you're looking to break in to the industry as a student. Now, the problem is that it stops there. None of them address this long, hard road of building a career. None of them kind of address that issue I had of progressing through the skill sets and the evolution of your career. None of them help you address those challenges you face once you get the job. And that's why Finance Career Launch exists. That's the purpose it holds, and that's why I was so excited to create it. Now, I want to tell you a little bit about what to expect from it. All right, if you go to the website, go to financecareerlaunch.com, you'll notice it says it's a mixed media mentoring experience. And I mean that. That's membership provides the training, guidance, and support to have a successful career in finance. Now, some of it will come directly from me and my experience. I'll try to tell you as much as I possibly can, but I only know so much. I only know my experience. So my goal is to bring together as many other experienced professionals who get your situation to make the experience as valuable for you as I possibly can. Now, a backbone of the Finance Career Launch experience is this podcast. So that's the audio piece of the mixed media. It'll be a conversation format for the most part. This is the first episode, so it's just me kind of explaining things. But once a week, there'll be an interview conversation with real finance professionals, investment bankers, commercial bankers, private equity professionals, corporate finance, internal at a company, corporate development professionals, personal financial advisors, insurance, commercial real estate, and others. And we'll be talking about their stories, how they succeeded in their career, some nuances about their the success factors in those careers, or things that made them do well, or personality traits that might serve you well there. Also, we'll be talking to other subject matter experts for specific career guidance. So maybe people who are experts at communication or getting hired or sales. But no matter what, whether it's a professional or a subject matter expert, we'll focus on a specific things that you can do to improve your chance of being successful. Now, other times I'll have these shorter episodes that I'll call host specials for now, where it's just me. It'll be shorter, 5, 7, 8 minutes, where we'll cover just one little thing, one topic that you can do that week to advance your career. And the topics I'll cover will generally fall into 3 broad categories: skills, habits, and mindsets. And these things all tie together to kind of weave a successful, a success pattern that I've noticed in people who are really good at what they do and make them stand out. So skills are things that you can learn with practice, like communication, technical competence, even creativity. That's something you can develop. Now, habits are exactly that, right? Things that you do over and over again to develop skills. That's how they link together. Goal setting, keeping commitments is a habit, discipline. And then the third, mindset, how you approach problems, how you approach learning, the attitude, the mental attitude that you come in that makes you sustain the habits and adopts and allows you to learn those skills. So curiosity, humility, confidence. So we'll cover those 3 broad areas in the shorter episodes. So that's for the podcast. When you register at financecareerlaunch.com, you'll automatically be enrolled in a video series that dives into some basic pillars of what it takes to build a successful finance careers. And oftentimes those will also fall in those skills, habits, mindset category. And so if you go there right now and register, you'll automatically start getting those videos every few days. Now, the other piece of the mixed media is text. There's some things already in the member area, but you'll also have the opportunity to ask any question you want to me. I'll try to respond very quickly by email, but I'll also try to turn those into something more permanent, whether it's a video, a short podcast episode, or something else. Now, all that stuff is there right now if you go register, financecareerlaunch.com. Now, this is what's there right now, but I have dreams of this possibly being something much bigger. In the near future, there will be some courses and other opportunities to learn. I'm working on a resume mini course right now with templates. There could be some technical courses on modeling and valuation. It'll take a little more time, so we'll see. And then I think there'll be some other just opportunities for one-on-one career guidance. And who knows, maybe this is a place to match employers with the best people for the job. Because my thought is, if you're a part of this community, you probably care more about your development and are willing to put in the work to develop yourself. And that kind of puts you in a whole different category of people. And that says something about your character. So I'm hoping that maybe you can be matched with great opportunities by certain companies that are looking for great people. Maybe there'll be early access to career opportunities. I don't know. Smaller group coaching or mastermind groups. Think about a mastermind group of non-competitive professionals so you can help each other grow. You're not competing with each other and network at the same time. These are all things that are just, who knows, there may be some other ideas that I have in the future, but I think this could be something interesting, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on that if you think there's something else that could be an idea for the future. But I ask you, go register as a member. It's free of charge, financecareerlaunch.com. You'll be taken immediately to the member area where you can find everything that we're doing, and we're growing that base of information every week. You'll be instantly enrolled in that free video course, and you'll be notified of future episodes of this audio show. And I'll just leave you with one final thought. Whether you're a student or early in your career, or you're later in your career, all of these things that we'll be talking about are things that take forever to develop. I can't teach you instantly how to do something other than basic, easy things like technical skills, right? Those are easier to learn. Those are quicker. But things like communication and creativity over the long term, decision making, they all take a while. They take a lifetime of experience and trying them. So why not start now? And that's the point of this podcast and this community. It's to let you know about what's coming, what's important in the long term, so that you can start to develop and build on what you know and build that career now and advance as much as possible. If you've made it this far in the episode, it probably means you found some value in it. And if that's the case, would you mind sharing it with someone who you think would benefit from it? Feel free to send it in an email, share it on Facebook, LinkedIn, or other social media, or just feel free to tell someone in person about it. Help them subscribe in iTunes. Show them how to do that on their phone. And if you're not sure how to do any of those things, head over to financecareerlaunch.com/share. So financecareerlaunch.com/share. And there are a couple videos there that'll help you do that. So thanks so much for listening, and I'll see you next time.